One of the coolest parts about my job is that I get to work with hundreds of elopement photographers, which means I get a really clear view of patterns and trends across the industry. And 2025 was an interesting year. A lot stayed the same, but some really important things shifted. So, in today's episode, I'm breaking down what I saw happening in the elopement photography industry in 2025 and what that means for you heading into 2026, even if you don't have anything booked yet. Welcome to Stoked, the podcast that helps adventure elopement photographers hit six figures and beyond in their businesses without hustling on social media. I'm your host, Megan McPhail, a former burnt-out emergency veterinarian that quit my hard-earned career to become an elopement photographer. Now I'm living a life I absolutely love, full of travel, adventure, and financial abundance, and I am hell-bent on helping you do the same. Are you ready to start booking out your calendar with dream couples in breathtaking locations and feeling genuinely stoked about your elopement photography business, life, and bank account? Then let's dive into this week's episode. Hey, it's your host, Megan McPhail.
And your co-host, Todd Reedy.
And I hope you guys are enjoying your holiday season. But this is a really important episode. I'm going over like a recap, basically like a 2025 elopement industry review. So you guys know exactly what we saw happening this year as far as marketing and bookings and elopements in general, because the cool thing about us, we work with hundreds of elopement photographers, and we really have our hands inside a lot of elopement photography businesses as coaches. And we've noticed a lot of patterns across 2025. So we are going to talk about those today. So 2025 was a unique year, but also one of the biggest years for elopement photographers, I'd say. I saw some of the biggest wins I've ever seen as far as total bookings and multi-day elopement bookings and pricing and people being so excited that they pivoted into elopements this year. So I'm going to save a lot of those more specific wins for our next episode next week, but I'm going to talk a lot about the patterns and trends and stuff from 2025. So the year started off slow, and I can only imagine that it was political. There was some uncertainty with the new administration coming in, and normally January and February are huge for bookings, and I had been kind of like really pumping people up for that at the end of 2024. And then January and February were not very strong for bookings, and there was a lot of panic. But luckily, things picked up in the spring. So even though like ghosting was huge at the beginning of the year, clients did circle back, and 2025 was kind of like the year of last minute bookings. So if you are worried about entering 2026 with very few bookings or even no bookings, if we see this trend continue, then you still have plenty of time to fill your calendar in 2026.
Yeah, I feel like, well, probably ever since 2020, every year has like been so different. Like we look at all this data and we think we're going to be able to predict trends, which I think we can at some sense, but then there's so many other factors like the world, like politics, economies, weather, all this shit that goes down. Like we can only do our best, and like we do look at the data, and it's like really important to like analyze it and like pull out expectations and like trends. But again, like it is still kind of a crapshoot. And so we may be having the same conversation at the end of 2026 about, oh, it was a crazy year. Like the trends were hard to predict, hard to run. But that's kind of this business. And so we're just, we're doing the best we can. And hopefully 2026 will stabilize a little bit more.
Who knows?
Who knows?
But it's weird because 2025, like we saw a lot of the same things working that have always worked, but some differences. And I felt kind of bad because at the end of 2024, I was really like, January and February are huge booking months. Get your ads ready. Make sure your websites are good to go. And then it was like the bookings were not coming in. And I think that because I pushed that so much, because we've seen that almost every year in the past, there was some unnecessary panic. But then it picked right back up, and like people had their biggest income years ever in 2025. A lot of people did, which was so cool to see.
Yeah, because people are still spending big money on weddings and elopements and valuing elopement photography.
Yeah, totally. So we saw a lot of last minute bookings in 2025. And some of the newer elopement photographers were really able to, I don't want to say cash in on that, but basically cash in on that like so many couples were kind of eloping last minute. And that, yeah, that has just been a continued trend because elopements just aren't like weddings. Like weddings typically book their photographers out a year or two in advance. And with elopements, I mean, some people do book their elopement photographers a year or two in advance, but some were really cutting it close. I mean, almost too close for comfort, like a month out. And some people are already booked. Some people didn't feel comfortable planning something that quickly, but really like the newer elopement photographers that I coached this year were really able to just get right in there and start booking things pretty much all year long, which was really cool to see. So one thing I want to mention is that the elopement industry is expanding. It continues to expand. It continues to grow every year. Elopements are becoming more and more popular. More and more couples are deciding to elope instead of having a big traditional wedding. More and more couples really value experiences over pomp and circumstance, you know? So, yeah, I think that's important to mention because I think a lot of people out there think like, oh, there's just so many couples eloping and there's already a lot of elopement photographers. So how can I get into this niche? But it just continues to grow. If you search Google Trends, the term elopement just continues to grow and more people are doing it. And more people are excited to book all day and multi-day elopements. So this year we really saw more photographers booking multi-day elopements, which was so cool because those end up being like 10 or 12K for these photographers and super fun for the couples. So through their research, they know that all-day elopements are the way to go, or even multi-day. So it's getting easier and easier to book these big, cool elopements. Whereas in years past, you kind of had to get somebody on a sales call and be like, hey, this thing exists that you might not know about. And now it's like people are getting on sales calls already ready to like do multiple locations, multiple days. And this is in locations all over the place. This isn't even just like in really cool adventure-y locations. This is like on the East Coast. This is in cities that we're seeing this. So yeah, I just really want you guys to know the industry is expanding. More and more couples want this type of stuff. And if you're only marketing 2-hour elopements, then you're really doing yourself and your couples a disservice. And I know that in Facebook groups and on the news and stuff like that, there's been all this talk about the economy being horrible, inflation, grocery prices, all this kind of stuff. And you might be feeling that hurt yourself. Like you might be like, man, there's no way people are spending big money on elopements. And you might, get some price haggler inquiries and people who like don't really value the all-day experience. But they are still out there. Those couples that are happy to book elopements at $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000. They are out there. That has not slowed down whatsoever. In fact, like it seemed easier in 2025 to book these big elopements. So I know like a lot of us are hurting from grocery prices and the cost of everything. And there's so much talk about the economy being, well, I think people are like, the stock market is up, but like the average person is kind of hurting. But these couples are still, they are investing a lot into their elopements.
It kind of makes sense, right? That elopements are once in a lifetime opportunities. And so like people do continue to value that high-end luxury experience. Yeah, groceries are expensive. Affordability is an issue. But for these like big life events, there's money to be spent there. And there's money on our end, the photographers, to be earned.
Yeah. And I think like it's crazy because it's all matching up, which is great, which is like it's in our best interest to book these all day, multi-day, higher priced elopements and not overbook ourselves, not burn out so that we can provide the best experience for our clients. That's in our favor. And then the clients want that too. So it's all symbiotic and it works best for us and our couples. Like everybody is happy. And I will say like, if you have not ever booked an all-day elopement or photographed an all-day elopement, the couples love it. It's really what's in the best interest for your couples. And these multi-day elopements, a lot of times it's like they're spending one day, just the couple adventuring around in this cool location. And then the next day is something a little bit more focused on a very small guest count so that they can, celebrate with their very close family and friends. And these types of situations are what's best for our couples. If you've ever photographed an all-day elopement, you know at the very end of the day, your couple is like, I don't want it to end. I had the best time. So it's really cool to see how great this relationship is between us who are booking all-day elopements and our couples just absolutely loving the experience and that we're able to give them that experience. And I would also say one thing I hear over and over again is that people are worried that there's already too many elopement photographers out there. So like, how can I become an elopement photographer? How do I pivot into this? There's already so many. And yes, there are lots of photographers with elopement photographer in their Instagram bio and on their website, and they might book the occasional elopement and stuff like that. But I think we're still in a deficit for photographers who truly know how to market to the couples wanting all-day elopements and that know how to plan an all-day elopement and know how to execute it on the day and make your couple super happy. I feel like we're still in a deficit of that. There should be more photographers offering these services. The market is definitely not saturated when it comes to elopement photographers that really know what they're doing. Okay, so let's kind of transition into the marketing trends that we're seeing on different platforms and channels and stuff like that. So as far as social media goes, one of the things that I really want to stress that I've seen year after year is that your follower count does not matter and does not have any correlation with how much money you're making or not making. Because I have seen, and again, we'll go over more of these in detail next week, but I've seen people hit six figures booking elopements, all-day elopements, with like 300 Instagram followers. And I've had photographers hit six figures multiple years in a row with less than 1,000 Instagram followers and like really not showing up on the app that much at all. So I just really, really want to squash this idea that your follower counts, your likes, your reels, your views, none of that matters and none of it translates into money. So I just want to squash the whole idea that your follower counts matter, that any of those vanity metrics on social media matter. I see so many photographers creating content for other photographers because that's what gets the views and the likes and the comments and maybe even followers. But like none of that matters if you know how to market to your ideal client, then your follower counts just, they don't matter. People don't care. You know, maybe there are some vain couples out there that are like, I want a photographer that's Insta famous or TikTok famous or something like that. But that's not our ideal couple that cares about that kind of stuff. So I want you to think about social media differently. It's really a place where you can even SEO optimize it these days, because what's happening is people are trying to create content that gets seen by a lot of people. But you need to think of social media more as like, okay, when people are just scrolling, they're doom scrolling for hours. Like that's not the time to try to like throw out a reel and have it get in front of people and then they're not going to like transition from doom scrolling to being like, oh, I got to reach out to this photographer. What you want to do is be visible to people who are using social media like TikTok as a search engine and are searching for Colorado elopement photographer or something like that. And then like using short form video to show your personality, to show your voice, to build trust in that way. Because one of the things that we're seeing with ChatGPT is that anyone can write a blog post, anyone can write a caption. A lot of things kind of sound the same and robotic these days. So to stand out, showing your face and your voice is one of the ways that you can build trust with people. They'll look at your knowledge and your photos as well, but like they'll be sold on your personality. Or they won't be, which is also fine, because I want to serve people who like who I am. I don't want to hide myself from people and then show up on the day and be like, wow, we are like totally incompatible. Like I want people who are like, oh yeah, I know Megan and Todd. I could totally talk to them about this, that, and the other thing. We could hang, we could have a beer, we can go hiking. Like this is going to be fun. So instead of trying to think like, oh, I got to beat the algorithm and I got to get followers and I got to get blah, blah, blah. Like what are your ideal clients searching for and how can you turn your social media into a place where they can find you because they're searching and then binge your content and have it speak to them as a couple, not like for other photographers. They don't care about our photographer inside jokes. In fact, it's probably really a turnoff for people. But since we're talking about search engine stuff, Google is still the GOAT, you guys. If you are not showing up on Google and getting 70 to 80% of your inquiries and bookings from Google, you are going to have a hard time. You are going to be in Facebook groups commiserating with people who are like, the economy sucks, the market is saturated, these dang algorithms hate me. How do I beat the algorithm? You don't have to worry about any of that stuff if you're showing up on Google. So the people hitting 6 figures and traveling and paying off debt and having babies and buying houses and quitting their 9-to-5 jobs and helping their partners quit their 9-to-5 jobs are on Google. I just want to drill this into people's heads. If you want to be successful, you have to be on Google, whether that's paid Google ads or through search engine optimization. ChatGPT is pulling information from the first page of Google. So if you're on the first page of Google, ChatGPT is sharing your info with the people who use AI to ask questions and stuff like that. And then once they find you on Google, they'll go to your social media too. So these people are actively searching for certain information, and they're either finding you or they're finding your competition. And anybody who is successfully booking from Instagram only and is not showing up on Google, I don't personally know of any, but I have heard stories of oh yeah, so-and-so, this one specific person books things off of Instagram, blah, blah, blah. The amount of energy you have to expend to constantly keep up with it. And I kind of know now because I've been posting lots of chicken content on my chicken Instagram that I'm just having fun with. But to keep up the hundreds of thousands of people that you need to see your stuff, it's like a full-time job. How are you also doing anything else in your life? It's just not fun. And anything that relies on my energy to make money, I can't rely on that.
Yeah, and it seems like it's so hit or miss. If something goes viral, and that could be great and amazing if you get a bunch of bookings off something, but it does seem inconsistent.
Oh,
or
totally.
You can't really plan for it, right?
That's the key, is it's inconsistent. Well, and first of all, let's backtrack. If a reel does go viral, you're not getting bookings from it. You're getting hate messages.
Potentially, yeah.
I mean, I know because I've had several coaching students who have had reels go viral, and it's literally just comments ew, why would you do this? And her dress is dirty. That's disgusting. And it's just all stuff that I don't want that negativity in my life. No bookings came from it, but a lot of negative comments came from it. And yeah, and the inconsistency. Why I love Google is it does not involve your constant energy expenditure to get bookings, and it's predictable. That's what people need. The people who are having success, they're not doing it at the expense of their time and energy once it starts really working. And then it becomes very predictable as far as okay, I'm spending this much. I can expect to get this many inquiries and this many bookings. I can raise my prices. It's just so much better. And I see and hear the before and after constantly of people who are I was barely hanging on with my Instagram and getting all my bookings from Instagram and word of mouth and maybe Facebook groups. And then once I switched over to prioritizing Google, I mean, life is good. So please, guys, for the love of chickens, prioritize Google. Please, 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 please prioritize Google. And then make sure that your website really communicates its value, because your website could be your biggest salesperson. I'm having people put videos on there of their face and voice so that they're not just having to rely on somebody going to their social media to see their face and voice. It really does a lot of heavy lifting. So your website should be attracting the right people and repelling the wrong people. And if it's really just I love elopements and here's my pricing and some photos, then people aren't getting to know you and you're not building trust with them. And you're going to be attracting price hagglers and repelling people that need more than that. And if you need to go back to our previous episode on the 7 types of eloping couples, that will help you understand why people need to see certain things, like your knowledge, your personality, and your photos. Another thing that I saw, and this is a little woo-woo, is that when people kind of fell back into their scarcity mindsets of, maybe they had a cancellation or a really good inquiry ghosted them or something kind of happened, or they just got really busy and some inquiries fell through the cracks, so they hadn't booked anything for a while. They kind of switch back into like a scarcity mode where it's like, oh my God, is the bottom going to fall out? Like, am I never going to get another booking again? Is the economy actually really bad? All that kind of stuff. Maybe people really don't like my pricing. And then when they were in a scarcity mindset, they did really struggle to book things. And then when they realized what was happening, kind of pulled themselves out of it and kind of went back into abundance and was like, no, I'm a great photographer. What am I talking about? I can book things at these prices. I've already done it, and like kind of got back into a more positive mindset. The bookings came back. And I think that makes sense. I mean, I saw it over and over again and heard it from several people that were like, man, I had like a really tough month. I had to pull myself out of it. I was just so negative. And then once I like became more positive and welcoming and excited to book things again, the bookings came in. What do you think about that, Todd? Because you're not as woo-woo as the rest of us.
That's not as woo-woo-y as
I think it makes sense.
It does. It totally makes sense. Like, we know that, we see that. You don't have to be an elopement photographer to like experience that, right? Like, if you're high energy and like putting good things out in the world, that comes back around. And if you're like, Eeyore, like moping in the corner, like, shit kind of sucks. So like, I think that totally makes sense. Like, whether you're woo-woo-y or not, having positive energy and like having that high like stoke on your business and life, like good things come back. Probably, I mean, it's not science, but maybe, I don't know.
It is science though, I think. If you think about it, if you're in a scarcity mindset, maybe you're thinking like, oh, nobody wants to book me anyway. So if you do get inquiries, you're taking a few days to like answer them and you're not following up with like a text message and your email goes to spam and like, like you're just not putting the energy into your processes that you should be. And I think that's also why we see inquiries go down when photographers are really busy, because they do take extra time to respond to inquiries and follow up and stuff like that. And a lot of couples need that and they want it to be timely. I mean, I see it in myself all the time when I'm having low energy or I'm down on myself or something. I'm not selling mastermind seats,
Booking elopements,
or booking elopements or anything. Yeah. And a lot of people that I talked to before they join like the mastermind, and this is where I'm getting all my information, is because I work so closely with the folks inside the Elopement Photographer Mastermind. And like before they start, I mean, they really are down on everything, like their prices. They don't think they can raise their prices because everyone's giving them a hard time about it, like they're just really down on themselves. And once we can kind of get them feeling and thinking more positively, better things happen. And then it's kind of like a snowball effect, or that momentum builds because you get all this feedback of like, oh my God, I just booked something at a higher price. Like, oh my God, things are working. But then there's going to be times where, like I said, you get a cancellation or someone who you thought was a really good fit went with someone else and you start doubting yourself and you get pulled back into the scarcity. And so you have to like be self-aware and pull yourself out of it. Cause I think you end up kind of self-sabotaging. That's like science.
That is science. Yeah.
So next week I'm going to be sharing more examples, like specific examples of the big wins that we saw in 2025. What I want you to really get from this episode is that the demand for all-day high-priced elopements is there. We need more photographers who are either already good at what they do or are willing to learn how to be good at doing all this stuff with like the planning and the marketing and all that stuff. Google is still the GOAT. I have not been shown anything otherwise. It's consistent, it's predictable. Social media has its place for like nurturing people and acting like a place where people can like actively find you if they choose to use Instagram or TikTok to search for photographers. But the algorithm does not matter. The vanity metrics don't matter. There's still lots of last minute inquiries happening. So if you don't have anything booked in 2026, that does not have to be a source of scarcity for you. You can turn this around, and you can turn it around fairly quickly too.
And couples are actively getting engaged potentially today.
Yeah.
Right? When this comes out. So they're going to start firing off those inquiries, those emails, those messages about inquiring about your availability for 2026 elopements.
Yeah.
So now is time.
Yeah, now is the time. I really want to encourage you to go after what you want and stop listening to the noise. Affordability is an issue for a lot of people, but people are still investing heavily into their elopements. So yeah, don't listen to anybody telling you that you can't make this work, because I saw people take huge risks and huge leaps in 2025 that paid off big time. And that can be you in 2026. So don't listen to anybody trying to talk you out of either pivoting into elopements or taking elopements more seriously, because we still need good elopement photographers that really value client experience and aren't just like trying to like travel and build a cool portfolio. Like, we need people who really want to treat their couples well. That is not saturated. There's a demand for that. There's a deficit of that. So yeah, stay tuned for next week's episode where I go over some of these huge wins that we saw in 2025. It was a huge year. And I also have to thank my support coaches inside the Elopement Photographer Mastermind, because they played a huge role in so many of these wins that we saw this year. They are the backbone of the program. Like I said, my energy is limited. So I hired a bunch of support coaches to help. And they're all people who went through the mastermind themselves and had success. And now they're teaching other people how to do it. And if it wasn't for them, yeah, I don't think we'd see. I mean, maybe we would. Maybe we would have still seen the huge wins. But I like to think that it was their extra care and their real world experience and their encouragement and unique perspectives on things, because we all do things a little differently, you know? So, and we all have our own zones of genius. So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah. So huge shout out to Megan, Lawler, Brittany, Karen, Juliana, Jessica, Paula, and Natalie. They're like our rock stars in the Elopement Photographer Mastermind. And then also shout out to Kim. Kim is our editor.
Oh, yeah, Kim.
For this podcast.
Hi, Kim.
And she doesn't get near enough love. This podcast would not exist if it wasn't for her. So we owe this podcast to her.
Yeah, thanks for editing out all our blah, 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 blahs. And
our roosters and our dogs.
Redo this.
Everything.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Oh, man. And I just realized this is like our last episode of 2025.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So I guess we'll see you guys in 2026. And yeah, I'll be going over all the wins. And I'll also be talking more about the Elopement Photographer Mastermind and our support coaches and more about it, because you're crazy not to join. I'm going to promote it next week. I don't normally do the hard sells on here. I feel like every once in a while I get the nerve to, but I'm going to sell you guys on the mastermind next week. So we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for joining us on this week's episode of Stoked. If you enjoyed the show and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, leave a review, and tell a friend. If you're looking for more inspiring elopement photography content, check us out on Instagram at Megan McPhail. And if you'd like to hear more about my business coaching and how I can personally help you hit six figures as an elopement photographer, then check out my website at www.meganmcphail.com.